Only God can judge you. Let's talk about it and cash in with a penny for my thoughts. So I want to come here and talk about how only God can judge you. Only God can judge me. Only God can judge anybody. As we speak about that, I want to talk about religious bullying. And also, religious bullying on the internet. Because, like they say, some of the worst judgmental people are church folks. And I want to add to that, some of the worst judgmental people are church folks on the internet. And I really got a problem with religious bullying. Now, I'm a person that has a relationship with God. I take pride in it, but I'm a person, I have issues. It took me a long time to even get where I'm at, and I still have work to do. And I feel like, there are a lot of overly religious people that don't aid in people that already feel maybe unworthy or unrighteous enough. And they make comments about things, or they try to tell people how they should live or what they should do, or make them feel like they're going to hell or whichever. And I have an issue with that, because I feel like we don't know. No one knows who's going to hell. And I also feel like judgment is just as bad as whatever sin that you feel like the person is doing. I also feel like, and I've said this, that people act like, God is a bubblegum machine and only their quarter works and only their quarter has access to God. So I feel like God never forced anybody or pushed anybody or beat anybody to have a relationship with him. He's always guided you to in the most gentle way and help you realize things. But there are people that like to, religiously bash people, and especially on the internet. I mean, it's like I see so many times of people on social media that, they say that they have a relationship with God or whichever, but they're bashing other people and they're judging other people. I've heard, if maybe somebody passed away or something, and somebody write a comment and say, oh, well, did they know God? Because if not, they're going to hell. How do you know they're going to hell? How do you know? Like, and what what their life mean to you? I've heard of people commenting on other people's, content or whichever, and say, oh, well, if you represent God, why do you have this? Why do you say this? Why do you say that? If you're representing God, why are you judging them? Why are you saying what you're saying? Why are you doing what you're doing? And, I feel like it's the same thing. It's religious bullying. I've seen a content creator have like a zodiac sign, but they also say, how they have a relationship with God and everything else. And somebody comment and say, oh, well, if you say you have a relationship with God, why do you have zodiac signs in there? That's not of God. Okay, which maybe you can argue that, but I don't think God cares about that. I think they think God cares about their heart. I don't think he cares about that much, is to say that a person is going to go to hell because they say they have a zodiac sign. Yes, those things have not the most positive things attached to it, like, tarot card and everything else. But to say that somebody is going to go to hell because they're saying what their zodiac sign is makes no sense. You're religiously bullying the person. You're thinking about things that God may not even be thinking about. And, I feel like I say, people already struggle with their worth. People already struggle with worthiness and everything else, especially when it comes to religion and over religiously people. And they feel like, they're not, what they have to say isn't worthy, or they feel like, well, somebody might not like what I do in my life. So I can't say that I have a relationship with God because somebody's going to judge it. And the people on the internet, you make it worse for people that already feel unworthy, already feel like they're not enough. You're feeding into it. You're feeding right into it, but you say that you have a relationship with God. You saying that you speak for God when really you're not, because you're telling people, oh, well, you're singing this, you're saying this, you're acting this way. I thought you had a relationship with God. I thought you, well, on here you said you love God and this and that, but on here you're saying something else. That's judgmental. And I feel like, that could be dangerous too. There's already enough issues. There are already people who can't be themselves around overly religious people. And, you know, for you to act like somebody is contradicting themselves too is judgmental. A person can say, hey, I got a relationship with God, but hey, I like to do this, or hey, I like to do that, or whichever, or this is my zodiac sign. Like, how is that diminishing them saying I have a relationship with God? You're diminishing it. And, I feel like it feeds into the insecurity. It feeds into the insecurity that people already have. It feeds into the negative feelings of not feeling righteous and not feeling enough that people already have. Not just the average person, also maybe gospel singers or gospel rappers or comedians, Christian comedians or whichever, y'all going at them too. And or, well, if they do, this artist do music with this artist, then they're not enough. They're of the world or whichever, or this and that. When honestly, if you think of the be of the world or not of the world, you are on social media commenting on what somebody else is doing, telling them not to be of the world. But you're on social media writing negative comments and judging them. So who is of the world? You or them? They could be of the world, but so are you, because you're writing negative comments and judging them. So is that not of the world? Or, of people just arguing with each other back and forth of different on social media. I've seen, people on social media arguing with each other of, who's more religious, who's a Christian, who's not a Christian, who's a this, who's not a that, and this and that. Or, people that are content creators and they're Christian content creators, and maybe they do something that you don't like, and then you're on there, well, why would you do that? I thought you was this. And why would you do that? I thought you was that. That's what you think. They have a relationship with God. They don't have a relationship with you. Those are two different things. And I'm going to say this, you make people feel like they don't question God, but they question your interpretation of God, because you write things or say things to people and make them feel like, well, maybe God don't forgive me for that. Maybe God didn't forgive me because this person say, I'm two in the world, and this person say this, and this person say I'm two that. How is that helping anybody? You tell people, you have a relationship with God. You know what you need to do? You need to stop doing this, and you need to have a relationship with God. The way you presented it make them feel like, well, this is too much of a judgment. I'm going to be judged. And the way this person is judging me is the same way God is judging me. That's the type of energy you put out. That you make people think the way that you are judging them is the way that God is going to judge them. And they're not enough. They're not righteous enough. And like that is a complete opposite of what God want people to be and what God want people to feel. Or, I've seen of people just being honest and coming online and saying how they feel about this or that, or maybe an ailment that they have or issues they have in life and this and that. And people saying, oh, well, if you trust in God, you wouldn't claim it and you wouldn't. But being honest. If they're being honest, that don't have anything to do with them not trusting God. They're being honest. And if we're going to be honest, you can talk about the good things in your life, but you also got to talk about the struggles too, because people want to feel seen. People need to feel that, hey, they're not in it by themselves. We can't just act like everything is so, glory and so good all the time, and there's no struggle, there's no heart, there's no pain. I mean, you can't. And, to remove people from how they should feel, or tell them, oh, well, since you claiming it and you saying this and you saying that, that's not of God. They're also a human being. They're also a human being. And, I feel like it's very damaging to religiously bash people and to use God as a delivery system for your bashing. The other thing I feel like is when people tell people they're going to hell. Now, me personally, I don't say stuff like that because I take that to the heart. Because I feel like the same way you telling somebody they should go to hell and you writing their name on a hell check, you stamping it with yours to say this person is going to hell because of that. This person is going to hell because of what they're doing. This is this and that and all the other type of stuff. And it's just like, we don't know who going to hell. A sin is a sin, to be honest. And when you say that, and a lot of people say that, but when you say that, then there's the backlash of, oh, well, no, you just want to do what you want to do. No, it is exactly what it says. A sin is a sin, and judgment is too. And when you say, well, I'm just bringing people to God. No, you're not, because you're not doing it in a judgmental, negative way. You're not, making people feel loved by commenting on their what they're doing and this and that. I've seen that somebody comment on a married woman and said that, oh, well, she shouldn't have got a divorce from her first husband and this and that and all that type of stuff, because that's not of God, even though her first husband had clearly, made a baby on her and left her and all other type of stuff. And that's not of God because she got married again. And the Bible said, this and that. Like, clearly this woman is happy. What makes you in judgment of her? Maybe God didn't want her to be with the first husband that was abusing her and was making other children on her and cheating on her. Like, why would God want her to be in that, especially in an abusive situation and a situation where he's not being faithful? But you get online and say that you represent God and you're telling people, about their lives, when clearly we all need to focus on our own. And their salvation is not in your hands, it's in God's hands. And nobody is over anybody. Like no one is over anybody. God is over all of us. And, to use how you feel and how you feel like a person's relationship with God should look like is judgmental, because it's a relationship. A relationship is individual. It's not what you feel like their relationship with God should look like. It's not what, your family members feel like a person's relationship with God should look like. It's a relationship. I've seen people on comments say, oh, this person missed their calling because they should have did this and they really should be doing this and this and that. How do you know that? You're seeing their content, or you're seeing them of, whatever their talent is, or singing or rapping or whatever, this and that. You're seeing a glimpse of them. And you just, you feel like you just know their whole life and you know what their calling is. How do you know? Just because you like the way they sing or they sing really good or whichever, you don't know if that's their calling. Just because you like the way, they made a speech and you feel like, oh, they missed their calling because I feel like that's not, you don't know that. That's for God to decide. God to decide and decide when he wants to reveal that to them. And, just the bullying and the overly, what people need to do and this and that. And these things have gone on for years. Religious bullying has gone on for years, if to be honest, as just flat out. But the internet, puts all of you guys out there. And you use what you already think and you use how you already are, and use it to attack people online. It's sad because, like I say, these things have already gone on. There's been religious bullying for centuries and years, and online, you put it right online too. And I want to tell anybody out there, if you feel like you're not worthy enough, if you feel like you're not righteous enough, if you feel like, you can't say certain things, if you feel like you're not worthy to talk about God because, maybe you listen to whatever type of music, or maybe you have other type of content or whatever, and you get online and or you feel like you just don't want to have anything to do with anything at all because of the way people are, don't worry about that. Because at the end of the day, a lot of these people have stuff going on in their own life. Don't worry about that. Because me personally, I went through years of just feeling unworthy, feeling unrighteous to say the things I say. And I'll go back and forth with God myself and be like, you know what, God, I don't even feel worthy. I'm not perfect. I got so many flaws. I'm so, I got all these things going on and everything else, Lord God. And, I may not, I don't know how to read my Bible from front to back. I don't go to church 3 times a week. I'm not a clergy. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a bishop. I'm not a minister. And I don't even feel worthy to feel the way I feel, to say the things I say, God. But you know what? Here I am. I know how that feels, to feel unworthy and just unrighteous enough. And to also even try to put yourself out there a little bit, and you feel like, somebody has something to say about something or whichever, or you don't want to deal with that. Me personally, like, I didn't even want to make videos because I was like, I just don't want to deal with, somebody having something to say, of whatever I got to say or how I feel or whichever, when I talk about God or talk about my relationship with God or how imperfect I can be. But don't worry about it. Don't even worry about it. Because remember, you have a relationship with God, not with the internet, not with the people on the internet, not with the people down the street, not with your pastor, not with whatever church you went to or whichever, or this and that. And I don't say that to be, nothing against them, but your relationship is with God. And you got to have a relationship with yourself and figure you out too. We all try to figure ourselves out. But this was another penny for my thoughts. I want to come here and be real and encourage. But like I always say, keep your mental healthy. And I want to thank everybody for cashing in on a penny for my thoughts. If you like my content, like, comment, and subscribe.